Well, Mark, it is such a pleasure to talk to you. Always love hearing from the people who know the contestants on The Big Break, and certainly you have a very good inside view of David. I've known him for a long time. First of all, thank you for joining me, and please start off by telling me a little bit about yourself and how you came to know David.
Well, Gail, thanks for having me with you, and it's been a lot of fun. I've coached the men's golf team at the University of Detroit Mercy for the last 21 years, and started the women's team 6 years ago too. So it's been a real pleasure, and I'm a pretty avid golfer, and to be around these kids and see what they do year in and year out is pretty neat. And Dave was part of a tradition we've established. I'm pretty proud of what we've done. We've won our league's championship 6 times in the last 13 years and gone on to 5 NCAA regionals, and he was part of 2 of them. And I guess, as you said, it started with the recruiting process. You know, with the internet, you can kind of find scores, and I kept seeing this name of a Windsor area kid showing up, and it turns out he knew one of the women's team members, Mandy Dupuis, and she kept going, "Coach, have you talked to Bernie? Have you talked to Bernie?" And finally, I talked to Bernie, and that got the ball rolling. I went out and saw him play a couple times, made him an offer, and actually he turned it down. And he decided to go back to school for another year, a grade 13 or a victory lap, as they call it in Ontario. And I'm going, oh, my gosh, what happens now? But I kept after it, and I think he appreciated that. And he ended up signing with us and had 4 great seasons with us. And, I'll brag on him a little bit because I don't know how much he's told you, Gail, but he's a full student athlete. He was our President's Award winner as the most outstanding senior. He was a 2-time academic All-American. Obviously, he did well. He won the league championship as a freshman. He was the league player of the year as a senior and had a lot of good things happen in between. But he's the kind of kid you really root for because he did it all for us.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds pretty impressive. And he seems so young and personable. Outside of golf, what did you know about him during his university and growing up? Because those are really grow-up years that time. How did he change or mature?
Well, he really had his head on his shoulders right from the start. You could tell that, and a lot of it is from his mom. I know he's mentioned her in the interviews with you and mentioned her on The Big Break, and it's a very, very warm and loving relationship. You can tell they both care about each other an awful lot. And the first time I went out to see him play, I ran into his girlfriend out on the course before I ran into his mom. And she starts talking to me, and have you met Jody? Like, that was part of the package. I had to pass Jody's approval, I guess you'd say, as well as Dave's, to continue the recruiting process. And he's older than his years in many ways. He's gone through a good bit, as he's described, working a lot of jobs instead of a silver spoon type of growing up. But I think that's made him a better person and a good person, obviously. And, it's just fun to see him on this show and really great to see good things happening, because what's the old expression, good things happen to good people? You hope it's the case, and for Dave and his mom, it definitely is. Oh,
that's good. Yeah, for sure. Well, he does come across as a very genuine and special guy. So let's talk about his golf game. What do you think his biggest strengths are?
He's a very courageous player. I think that's one of the things that I hope helps him in this show as it goes along and hopes keeps him there. He's a great match play player, as you've probably talked about, and they show the graphic on The Big Break Indian Wells once in a while. He won the Ontario match play 3 times and was a semifinalist another time, and you can't do that without having nerves, and that's a good thing. He's a very strong player. He's very confident. And he was such a feel player that when he first came to us, that if you told him, geez, this might work better, his reaction would be, well, it doesn't feel right. And I don't know how this is going to go. And he's become more receptive, and especially within the last year or so working with my assistant coach, Luke Lefebvre, they've got quite a bond and quite a work ethic. And Dave has actually fixed some things up that have made him a better golfer, and I think that's just helping too. And he's got such a confidence in his game now, which is great. He feels like he's going to go out there and break par every time, and that's what you really want as a golfer, and I'm really glad to see it for him.
Yeah, well, you've watched the 2 episodes so far, and you've seen some of the other players out there. How do you feel David's chances are when you compare them with watching just the few days we've been able to see them, but the other guys out there and the strengths in their games? What's your thought on that?
Well, I think that a lot of it is the nerves or the lack of nerves. I think Dave's a very capable player, and he's going to do well because of that. And again, when it gets down into a match situation, he's used to being in clutch situations. Mm-hmm. He was always number 1 or 2 in our lineup, and always wanted to be. He wasn't one of those guys who said, "Geez, I'll just go play down in the bottom of the order. It doesn't matter who I play with." He wanted to play against the best, and I think that'll help him. He's obviously, as you said, he's younger than everybody else in the field and doesn't have the professional experience that some of them do. But I think that 4 great years in college and some of the other amateur events he played, whether it was the Canadian Am or the U.S. Junior or things like that, it really made him a very comfortable and capable player in pressure situations. And he's been to 2 NCAA championships with us, and those are against the best players in the college game. So I guess you add it all up. He's played some great courses over the last 4 or 5 years as a member of our team and as a member of the Big Break and such. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of tough situations that he hasn't been in before. He's quite a competitor. He's not a big guy, as he alluded to on the interviews on the Big Break, but he always played against bigger guys in hockey, for example, and he'd figure out a way to skate around them and score goals, even though they could plaster him probably if they got a piece of him. And those are the good things. So he was smart enough to finally give up hockey at an age when the guys are getting too big. If you've seen his hands, you can tell he's been hit a few times, and they are still good enough to make some putts. So all in all, there's a lot of good players on the Big Break, and we've been sitting around trying to handicap almost like you probably have in Vancouver, figuring out who the biggest competition is and can he beat this guy and such. And I think he's going to do fine, and I think his background and his makeup are going to serve him really well.
Now, did you know any of the other players before the Big Break? For example, Kent from Saskatchewan here in Canada. I don't know if you knew about him or any of the other players. Had you ever seen them before?
I'd heard of Kent's name just because of his success on the nationwide tour, and certainly Raymond Floyd's son. When you mention somebody's dad like that, you're going to know. But most of these were unknowns, and it was different than some of the past Big Breaks before, where I knew a lot of these names, or men or women for that matter, because of their college background. This was a little bit different, and that's part of the fun of this particular Big Break. You almost want to go back and double-check and reread everybody's biography to make sure he didn't miss anything, and it's not like they've got a resume out there in front of them, and I think the winner of this Big Break is going to be pretty special. And, hopefully it's Dave, obviously, but I think there's a lot of neat stories that are being told right now, and hopefully, the people that are watching are going to enjoy them as these weeks go on.
No, absolutely. It does look really interesting, and I love the format with the cash. I mean, it just, handing that money back and forth between the house and the players to each other, it really, set up the competition off the fairways and off the greens and brought it right into the whole show. I thought that was pretty cool. You've watched some Big Breaks. What do you think of it?
Oh, I think it's a lot of fun. I agree with you. And sometimes you're playing with the house money and it's not so bad, and sometimes when it's your money, it really matters. And, I see the guys on our team, even, for example, if they go to the first tee at a practice round and, they're natural, hey, let's play a best ball, or let's play skins today or something like that, and you just laugh a little bit, but this is real money now. And it's kind of neat to see the reaction. I remember Dave's face, his eyes got wide, and I couldn't believe I was holding all this.
Yeah.
And it was $5,000, and now he wants a piece of everybody's pocket, just like the other guys do too. And it adds a little more suspense, and I think it probably adds to the storyline a little bit. In some ways, it's not always the Big Break; it's the WWE, the heroes and the villains, and who do you root for, and taking away their belt or their money in his case. And it's going to be a lot more fun as it progresses, and the pot gets bigger, and the stakes get larger.
Yeah, no, I can see it building for sure. Well, Mark, this has been absolutely terrific. Thank you so much for talking to me. Let's stay in touch. Let's keep chit-chatting over the series. If you drop in once in a while and give us some of your commentary, I'd really appreciate it. And, have a great day.
Thank you, and you too.